Hello out there on the intertubes, and it is Doug, the Eclipse Whisperer, again with another fine episode of neat things to do in Eclipse, our favorite software, right? Or at least the one that keeps the electricity on and keeps us from being evicted from our apartments. So cool. Uh, Today we're going to talk about tax jurisdiction and zip code maintenance because it's first of the year, and this gets our mind towards the impending doom of everyone paying their taxes. Anyway, uh, if you live on planet Earth like I do, you probably live in a state, and they probably have a government, and there's probably uh, adjustments made on a yearly or quarterly or God knows when basis to what your sales tax rates are. And you're going to want to make adjustments accordingly. Sometimes they're nice and they notify you, and quite often they don't, and you're just supposed to be clairvoyant. So, first step with this thing is Eclipse has a module for automatic sales tax updating through Avalara and such. They want a small fortune for that module. I think it's like $15,000 to buy, another $10,000 to set up, and like a recurring fee of $6,000 to $8,000 a year, um, which is a lot of money. And I have never known anyone that felt like spending that astronomical amount of money just to make sure that their tax rates in the few counties that they operate in are being updated properly. So everybody thinks to themselves, oh, well, I'll just keep up with it manually, and quite often this is a disaster. Everyone puts it off, everyone shuffles it off to the intern or something to do, and it usually, you lurch along, fits and starts usually end up selling things for months before anyone catches the, oh, we're using the wrong tax rate. Anyway, so most people are not using the manual Avalara system, which is too bad because if you're listening to this video, that means it's probably you that has to update these tax tables. And I feel for you because, well, there's less pleasant things to do in life, but this isn't in my top 10 of favorite things, certainly. Where do we start? In my case, I would start with going out to my state government, in this case, the glorious state of California, and try and get the tax rate table off of their website. And quite often, when you search for this thing, you're going to find links that look official, and they actually go to Avalara. And they'll give you a free download if you type in your email address, and you'll be getting spam from them every 2 days for the rest of your life in your email, convincing you to buy Avalara and their system. Oh, and once you finally do, the spam doesn't go away. So you're just going to be on their mailing list forever. And like anything that you buy anymore, the whoever you're buying something from feels that it's their right to inform you on a hourly, daily, weekly basis of all new things that you might want to buy from them. I find it irritating. It's like bayoneting the wounded. Anyway, so here we are at california.gov, and here's our tax rates effective January, and they give us a wonderful online chart here. It also has a search tool, and I just want to export it to Excel. This here is the resulting spreadsheet that we see here that we get from the government, and all well and good. Now, in a normal routine kind of update, this would be good enough to kind of deal with, but say in an older system, I'm sure other states have this problem, but certainly in the state of California, they like to add new zip codes or incorporate new cities and change the what cities the zip codes are grouped in, and therefore what the tax is. So since we see here in this spreadsheet, it doesn't give me by what zip code. There's no way for me to tell if any of the regions or city territories have changed on this. I know for a fact in my current system that it's using groupings from 2017, So there have been lots of changes, and this spreadsheet is useless for me because if I just put in the information as it is, I'm going to get a lot of zip codes grouped wrong with the wrong tax information on it. And so that's a problem number one. As best as I can tell, the state government provides a tool where I can put in every damn zip code and find the tax rate. But they don't have a downloadable spreadsheet of it by zip code, which sucks. And once again, you're faced with probably dealing with Avalara. Avalara will give you a spreadsheet that does show the tax rate and the zip code and the city and all that additional information if you need to do a large number of changes to your system, like in the case of the one that I'm playing with now. Here is an example of a download from Avalara, and see, this is much more useful for my particular needs because it's actually going to give me a zip code and the tax rate in that and give it a grouping. Of course, because we're dealing with the state and a private company, doesn't mean that the groupings that that Avalara uses isn't necessarily the same groupings as what the state will give you for counties or cities. And I guarantee you neither one of these two is going to match up exactly to the jurisdictions that are set up in Eclipse. So, sounds like a party, doesn't it? So, you're probably asking at this point, what the hell is he talking about? Alright, so take for example, we've got our tax rates now from Avalara here. I've got a tax region name of Linwood, so I want to go ahead and update the, or at least check the tax rate for Linwood in Eclipse. So, well, simplest thing to do, make sure I get the spelling right. So I'm going to copy that. And we go into maintenance, tax duty and exchange rates, tax jurisdiction code maintenance, and we go to plug in that, that tax jurisdiction. What do we get? This is when you start to discover, oh my gods, this might be a lot more complicated than I was thinking. Probably haven't gotten fully there yet, but you're starting to get the oh shucks feeling to it. That's right. Whatever the tax jurisdictions are named in Eclipse, quite often will have very little bearing to what you're going to get in the spreadsheet, which means now this has gotten much, much harder because now you're going to have to create a cross-link table and get even further. So how you go about doing that? Well, this starts with a set of reports that you do in Eclipse to get some idea of what the heck is actually in Eclipse and what the groupings really are. And there are several different reporting tools that you can use to do this. I'm going to hang back to the old eTerm interface and use some old reports that I've had in there for quite a while. So mass load, and we have one here for zip codes, and we've got another one for tax jurisdiction. So we'll go ahead and run these, and of course it's going to go into the universe database, look in the tax tables that are in the database, and it's going to spit out the description, the rate, and the last effective date information. So we go ahead and we run the reports and send them to our hold file, and then we do the same thing with the zip code. As you can see, these reports are dead simple. You should be able to duplicate this in your system in a few seconds. There is actually some videos I've done on how to create report writer mass load reports, and these are about as simple as they get. What you get with the information out the other end, well, that's another issue. Anyway, so we go ahead and hold that one, and you can either from the Solar interface download these things, or I find that that tool more annoying for me, so I just keep doing it from within the interface. Depends on how old you are. So first we download the tax jurisdictions. Now, in your case, you're probably going to download it as a CSV. In my case, I wrote Python programs a long time ago that manipulate and convert these into spreadsheets and do a couple other handy things for me, but I realize you probably don't have those Python programs that I wrote. They come in really, really handy. You got to do it the manual way. Well, yeah, less fun. Anyway, so as you've seen in previous programs with a hold file, we do a download and save this in a particular location on our local hard drive with a name that makes some sense. In this case, tax jurisdiction and rate. Oops. And for the sources, for the reasons of my programs, I download them as text. You'll be downloading them as spreadsheets in most cases, unless you have one of my programs. And download the headings because that just makes it a lot easier to deal with. And of course, we do the same thing with the other file. When you get through with the downloads, we can take a look at the raw data and see what we got here. So, tax jurisdiction and rate. We're going to see information like that. Now you can see here, because we're dealing with a multi-value database, it's keeping track of all the previous rates as well. That makes, when you go to convert this into a spreadsheet, a little more of an issue if you were trying to catch just the last effective date rate. Might be a little tricky, but you know, if you're good with Excel sorting like I am, you'll figure out a way. Anyway, so this will give you some idea of your different tax jurisdictions that you have in your system. Of course, you're probably in a different state than I am, so you're going to have different jurisdictions, go figure. And, well, let me leave that open for a moment. And then your other one is going to show the mappings of which zip codes group to which jurisdictions over here. And this will come in really handy when you have to merge all this stuff into one spreadsheet to get a clearer picture of if all your zip codes are mapped to the appropriate jurisdictions, or whether or not you need to create new ones and regroup them. And if you have to do that like I will, well, you're going to be looking at many happy days of doing that. You'll be spending a fair bit of time on this next step, more than likely. So, and get used to having a lot of different tabs in a spreadsheet as you're working with untangling this stuff. So here we have the first tab, which is the information that we got from Avalara, which gives me a region name and gives me the state and gives me the zip code. Then I have the two reports when I finally converted the data and got those into tabs. Here's my listing of jurisdictions that are in Eclipse. Now, of course, your Eclipse system is going to probably have jurisdictions for several states. So in this case, I've just isolated for the state of California. So you'll probably be doing something similar unless you're dealing with a company that operates in several states. And then you get to do this process several times over. Isn't that great? Here is the zip code translation. And of course, Eclipse comes with all the zip codes for all the states in the Union, minus Canada, I think, by default. So you're going to have a lot of gibberish in there. I couldn't tell you how old that zip code table is. If you're on Eclipse, odds are you've probably been on it for 12 years plus, so it's probably a very outdated zip code table because the world changes. Anyway, so we take this information, we combine it all together to try and get a clearer picture of what the heck we're looking at. The final result for me is something that looks like this. So I have the zip code as it shows up in the Eclipse system, what jurisdiction it's currently tagged to, and what its name is, what its current rate is, when it was last updated, God help me, and then mapped to the Avalara information. And according to Avalara, what grouping that zip code should be in and what its new tax rate should be. And here becomes the problem is you can see things have shifted a lot over 7 years in California, so things don't match out quite like they used to. Here's Sonora where okay, that one's good. El Monte is mapping wrong. There's an El Monte and South El Monte. There are two different ones now. Someplace that you get the idea. A lot of things that you have to clean up in the case of my system. Hopefully your system is not scrambled like this, so and good for you. The next step that you would be making here is your translation table, and hopefully you'll do this once and then you just update it a little bit every year and it becomes not so much a pain. But if this is the first time you're doing the tax information and nobody else has done this before, or they died or quit and took the information with them, they're going to be doing this again, and you're going to have to take a look at regions as they're named in your Eclipse system, the jurisdiction, and what it maps to in the Avalara file. And there's a little bit of creative thinking that has to go on to do this. Sometimes it pans out pretty good. So hey, Avalon and Avalara maps pretty well to Avalon. But a lot of these things, as you can see, I have no mappings. I've got a tax region in Avalara that says Adelanto, and I've got no equivalent in Eclipse, and now I'm going to have to create a jurisdiction for Adelanto, and then I'm going to have to take the zip codes that are currently tagged to something else and move them to Adelanto. So what do I mean by that? Okay, I have a tax region Adelanto, and I did a mapping by zip code, the zip codes that were in Eclipse versus the zip codes that were in Avalara, what that zip code says that it is, the jurisdiction it falls under in Eclipse, and what jurisdiction it falls under according to Avalara. And in this case, we see this zip code is for Adelanto. It is set in the jurisdiction of San Bernardino and under the city name of Phelan. So apparently over the years they've had a change of name or something to that effect. So in order to fix this up properly, I would have to create a whole new tax jurisdiction called Adelanto. Then I would have to go to this zip code and move it to fall under Adelanto to make sure that these tax rates are correct. Now, in some cases, maybe I'm a little lazy, so I did a little pre-filtering here, and I just filtered out the jurisdictions, the tax regions that need to be created that aren't currently created, because there is a rate difference. Since you could take a look at the jurisdiction San Bernardino according to the Avalara tax table, and if it's 7.75 in San Bernardino, just leave it alone, because okay, the mappings may be wrong, but the rate comes out the same. That'll probably come to bite you in the ass later on though, so I don't suggest it, but you could, as a shortcut, do that. Anyway, so once you have created a mapping table and or done the nightmare thing that I'm talking about of like having to create all new jurisdictions and remap the zip codes, then you actually get to go ahead and update the taxing information. So what does that look like? At this point in the game now, I suppose I should also mention these couple of things that you'll see on your menu: national sales tax, Zipcode file update, Zip plus 4 sales tax file update. And hey, those sound kind of promising. Maybe Eclipse came up with some special way where I could just have a spreadsheet I could upload, and maybe it could hokey pokey rearranged all these tax tables for me. I'd never heard of these. I asked the Eclipse tech support, and they said, "Oh yeah, those programs don't work. They haven't worked in years. They were tied to the national sales tax function, which they quit selling." So, hopes dashed. Now we're back to having to do this the manual way. Anyway, so let me go ahead here. So, updating a tax for a jurisdiction. So we go to tax jurisdiction codes here, and let me move this over and say, okay, we have a clean mapping to Alpine, so I'm gonna play with that one. So we're gonna type in, or in my case, I'm gonna be lazy and copy and paste and take that space away, or else it'll beep at me, and do that jurisdiction. Luckily, it still exists, and now it's telling me that do I want to create a new jurisdiction effective date or update an existing one? Do not update existing ones, or else if you're doing credit and rebills, the customer will get refunded the wrong tax. So don't do that. So you create a new one. I'm going to make the effective date today. All right. And you have some overrides in here, and honestly, I've never seen anyone have to use them, and God's bless you if you need to use those special exemption groups and overrides. I'm just going to show you the dead simple that we deal with where I'm at. Here we have to put in what is the GL account name in our system, in our chart of accounts that we're accumulating the state taxes to, and this is in our general ledger under code 2531, state sales tax payable. All right, I see the rate is supposed to be 7.25%. All right, this is not reduced. There's no freight and handling charges, and this is taxable by item, quantity, etc. All right, once you've got that all in place, then you can go ahead and do file save, and save the changes, and control period for the next one. So the actual updating the tax information once all the jurisdictions are in place is easy. Making sure all those jurisdictions are actually correct and mapped to the right zip codes, very, very, very hard. So using our earlier example, we were playing with Adelanto, right? Tax region name Adelanto. Actually, looking at the spreadsheet that I was working on earlier, Adelanto was an outdated one that I don't want to deal with. So in our cases, we're going to play with Alhambra instead. All right, so we got to do the same kind of things we were going to do. We have to create a new one. Always a good idea to check first and make sure that somehow I didn't screw up, or did screw up, and Alhambra does really exist. So first we check that. No, it definitely doesn't exist. And we do a file new, and go ahead and put in our new name. And all right, and now we got to put in a tax rate for this initially, and some type of descriptive information. My typing's not doing too good today. My fingers must be cold. And then the same jurisdiction we used before, what GL account the accumulated tax is going to. Do 531. What the rate is, which according to this information, silly me, I didn't put that on the combined spreadsheet. Alhambra is supposed to be 10.25. That's a pretty hefty tax rate. So 10.25% per item. And And that's done, and we save that and save the changes. All right, and so Alhambra is fixed. But now that is only part of the problem because, as we said before, there are a bunch of zip codes that, since Alhambra didn't exist, are now mapped to other things than Alhambra, so we got to fix those as well. So, let me take a look at our zip codes because I've already done the filtering and mapping here and know ahead of time, and yeah, I cheated. So I can see that I have a block of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 zip codes that need to be moved from jurisdiction Los Angeles to jurisdiction Alhambra. I would love to tell you there's an easy way to do that. I haven't found it yet. If you know it, hey, I'm all ears because I'd love to learn something new that saves me time. I'm getting older and yeah, I won't live forever. Anyway, so now to do the zip codes, we have to go into zip code maintenance. That's this tool over here. And then we're going to put in each one of the zip codes that's affected and change the mapping appropriately. So, okay, first one is 91801, which I can just as easily type in 91801. I like to copy and paste because I fat finger things a lot. And we can see I already did that. Yes, 91801. Done. All right, so here we need to change the default tax jurisdiction from Los Angeles to Alhambra. So I'm just going to copy that and paste. Oh yeah, that worked good. And take that space out. We hit tab in there to make sure there wasn't a misspelling, and yeah, every time you tab down to the next thing, it's gonna verify that that you typed in that jurisdiction correctly and it found a match. So important to do that. We don't have any jurisdiction override information. That's good. And so we can go ahead and save this and move to the next one. And I'm going to highlight these in green for every one that I go into. Whoops, sorry, wrong one. Was down here. So I know that I can go to the next one. Now I'm going to copy and paste because I don't feel like mistyping the damn zip code like I did last time. Alright, and this one gets to be Alhambra as well. And control period to save and go to the next one. And highlight the next one green. And you get the idea. And thanks to the magic of recording, I've gone ahead and done all the other ones, and now I'm on the last one. Oops. As such, and our final save, and our final highlight. Now, as I said, in your system, you may not have to do this, but odds are, if you're in a system like mine that hasn't been updated in several years, 7 in this case, this is probably a good idea. I mean, you can pretend you don't know and don't do this and hope you don't get caught, but I don't have that kind of luck. Anyway, so as we can see in my particular system, because it is relatively outdated, I've got what you see here is all of these jurisdictions that I have to create in the system, update my table so I don't forget. I've got, in this case, I've got about 80 jurisdictions I need to create that aren't currently in my system, thanks to 7 years of changes to the state of California. Thank you, California legislature. And those 80 or so changes then require 842 zip code remappings. Now, in order to make this as simple as possible for myself, I I didn't even use the entire state of California, since the company I work for only operates in Southern California and doesn't operate above Ventura County. All of these changes are just for the cities and counties below Kern County and San Luis Obispo County. So just the bottom 1/3 of the state of California. If I had to do the entire state, this would probably be a month's worth of work. So I don't know, probably convincing the boss to spend the 15 grand for the Avalara module might not be such a bad idea. Or maybe you got lucky and you've got an old system that's been very well maintained and you don't have to do any of this stuff, and you just have to do like you saw me do earlier, which is just have your little Avalara to Eclipse translation map and just bring them up one at a time, update the date, and put in the new percentage. And I hope that in your case, that's what you got and not the nightmare that I've got. Anyway, you should probably run the 2 reports that I showed you again, or something equivalent, in Eclipse. You don't have to create the mass loads I did. You can use the Quickie Report Writer web tool to probably get you something that will do the same thing. As I said, these are just old reports I've had around for a while. But you'll want one that's going to give you the zip codes and what jurisdiction the zip codes map to, and then what jurisdictions are in your system, and what the current tax rate is and when they were last updated. Then you want to filter out for the state that you operate in, or states that you operate in, because you probably don't want to spend a day and a half updating all the tax information for Michigan when you don't sell to anything in Michigan. So the more you narrow down what you need to operate with, the better off that you'll be. How important is this? Well, it varies. If you're an electrical distributor, most of your sales are going to be non-tax sales to electricians, so it may not impact a lot of your sales. But as I said, this is something that should be done regularly, and more than likely, if you're listening to this, you're the guy or gal that gets to do that. Good luck to you. I wish I had better ways of doing this, easier ways of doing it. I really don't. Anyway, thank you for your time and attention, and I hope this was maybe a little demoralizing, but at least helpful. At least it gives you some direction to the process to play with, and as I said, if you find a better way of doing it, hey, I'm all ears, let me know. Thank you for your time and attention. This has been Doug Fashing. Have a wonderful evening.